Could you kindly stand as we bid welcome to the Honorable Premier? Kindly be seated. A pleasant morning to everyone. After an enjoyable and restful holiday yesterday, I bid you a most hearty welcome to May's edition of the Premier's monthly press conference. These press conferences are designed to bring a sense of openness and accountability to the Nevis Island administration. As per usual, the Premier will first give updates from the ministries, departments, and units within the NIA, and we will then afford the opportunity for the press corps to ask their questions. In so doing, you're kindly asked to give your name and the organization, media house that you represent, just in case we have to give follow-up information. Please turn your phones off. Preferably, you can also put them on silent. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, join me in welcoming to the podium the Honorable Premier of Nevis, Mark A.G. Brantley.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Forgive me, but my information is still coming in for the press conference, so you will forgive me. 2020. Okay. I'm delighted to be here with you again for our monthly press conference and thank members of the press, NTV. And I'm told that this press conference is now being carried via the Caribbean Broadcast Network, Caribbean Superstation Radio, 90.9 FM, Caribbean Broadcast Network, CBN TV, on Flow Cable TV and 101, CCT Network number 291 in the U.S. and British Virgin Islands. So we thank them as well for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot of ground to cover. It seems like a lot has been happening on the island. And so, as usual, let me get right to it. I want to start by saying congratulations to our Constable of the Year, and our Constable of the Year for the first time in the history of the annual Constable Awards. I think it was the 17th year this year, and for the first time it's a woman Constable Shanika Clark of the Task Force Unit, and we say congratulations to Officer Clark. The runners-up were Constable Mitch Morgan from the Newcastle Police Station. He got first run-up, and Constable Keyshawn Bissett from the Traffic Department got second run-up. The other awardees as the top constables were Constable Wilmot Warner, Beat and Patrol, Constable Kadeem Huggins, Beat and Patrol, Constable Colin Cupid, Criminal Investigation Department, Constable Randall Charles of the Gingerland Police Station, and Constable Peterson Petty Frere of the Cotton Ground Police Station. So we congratulate them all, but pay special homage to Woman Constable Shanika Clark, Constable of the Year in Nevis this year. I want to commend the police, the High Command in Nevis. The Nevis Division is currently headed by Superintendent Alonzo Carty. I want to, of course, commend our Commissioner of Police as well in St. Kitts, and the Honorable, I like to call him Honorable, Wakely Daniel, the Permanent Secretary in the Premier's Ministry, who has really worked hard, he and his team, to keep this particular event alive. And it has been going in Nevis for 17 years, where we honor our police. I think that that's quite instructive and something that is worthy of note, and so I say congratulations to them. Some more good news, and there'll be a lot of good news during this press conference. Not too much bad news, great news going all around. But some more good news. I want to announce that Mr. Nelson Al Stapleton has been confirmed as the new General Manager of NEVLEC, the Nevis Electricity Company. I feel very happy to confirm that because, of course, Mr. Stapleton is a son of the soil. He is from Nevis. I would want to say he's from Cotton Ground. I hope I'm correct in that regard. But, of course, his parents were quite well known to us. Nelson Stapleton, who was a senior police officer for a very long time, and his mother, a beloved nurse, Maureen Stapleton, who served Nevis well. Career public servants, career servants of the people, and their son, Nelson Al Stapleton. Al holds a degree in electronics, and Al has had 20 years experience working with electricity, initially with NEVLEC, then he went to Skelec, and now he's back at NEVLEC. And we congratulate Al Stapleton. When I stand here as the Premier of Nevis, and I say to you, members of the press and public, that in Nevis we are investing in our people, and that in Nevis we see value in our people. In Nevis we see, wherever possible, the opportunity to promote our people so that they can take the commanding heights in the economy and in the activities on this island of Nevis. This is yet another example of what we are seeking to do. So congratulations, Mr. Stapleton. If you're listening, I wish you all the very best in your new role at Nevlik as the new general manager. Now, ladies and gentlemen, a very important update, and that has to do with the issue of property valuation. I did report some months ago that we would undertake a new property valuation process for the purposes of property tax. Let me now update you as to where we are. The physical component of the exercise officially commenced on July 21st, 2025, and many of you would have already been contacted by officers of the Inland Revenue Department regarding the specific valuation of your property. This general valuation exercise forms part of the government's broader initiative to modernize the island's property tax framework and improve the accuracy, consistency, and integrity of property assessments throughout Nevis. The last comprehensive valuation exercise was commissioned in 2008. Members of the press, I want you to note that. The last exercise was done in 2008. By my tally, that is some 18 years ago. It means that the current property tax values reflected on the tax roll are now almost 20 years old, and no longer accurately reflect present-day market realities. Now, I'm advised that in most jurisdictions, this revaluation exercise is done every 5 years. It has not been done in Nevis for nearly 20 years, and so we are undertaking that exercise now. The exercise was conducted using the International Association of Assessing Officers Standard on Mass Appraisal of Real Property, which is an internationally recognized methodology used globally to ensure that property valuations are objective, consistent, transparent, and aligned with accepted professional standards. In addition, the Property Division has adopted the International Property Measurement Standards, commonly referred to as IPMS, which provide a more modern and uniform method of measuring buildings and improvements. As a result, some property owners may notice adjustments to previously recorded building sizes. At the completion of this process, all property owners will receive a certificate of valuation indicating the new value of your property. The certificate of valuation remains subject to a statutory 30-day objection period from the date of issuance, and during that period, taxpayers may file objections with the IRD and seek clarification. So let me just pause there to say, we're doing the valuations. Once the valuation is completed, they will be issued to each property owner certificate of valuation, or COV. Once you get your certificate of valuation, you can object. You have 30 days during which you can object, and that is the period that you would have to file any objection with the IRD, the Inland Revenue Department. Now, we expect that taxes, in the sense of property taxes, for some people may increase. And that is because tax is assessed as an ad valorem basis. That is a percentage of the value of the property. Naturally, since properties have not been revalued for nearly 20 years, that a lot of those values are no longer valid. And so as values increase, we expect that the percentage applied would yield an increased tax. As government, we are clearly concerned to cushion the impact of any increase on property homeowners, especially those who fall within lower and middle income brackets. And so, we are currently taking the advice of the Property Tax Division with a view to extending or increasing the threshold for exemptions. So what I want to say to the public is that we will come back to you to indicate to you what the new thresholds are going to be. And so again, that members of the press and public are clear. When we say the threshold for exemption, it simply means that if your property is valued, let us say now, at $200,000, that is the current value, I believe that the threshold for exemption is $80,000. So on the first $80,000, you pay zero tax. It therefore would mean, on my hypothetical, of a $200,000 property that you would pay tax on $120,000. We are saying that we want to increase that threshold so that the amount of value that is exempted from the tax is actually increased. And we hope to come back to you with finalized details. I'm looking, and the Cabinet will look very carefully at the proposals that will come from Inland Revenue. But we have said to them that we have to cushion the impact on the lower and middle income earners so that their property tax does not become unaffordable. The idea really is for us to modernize while ensuring that the tax burden falls most heavily on those most able to pay and those naturally who have the multi-million-dollar villas and the very expensive properties. That is the intent behind this approach. So further details will certainly come forward. But what I want to say is that we expect that the process will be substantially completed by the end of June, that is the end of next month, in order to facilitate the timely processing and payment of property tax. And we've extended the deadline now for the payment of property tax from June 30th to September 30th. So that also is an important notice, that the deadline has been extended from June 30th until September 30th this year, and that is to ensure and give us the opportunity to complete this very important exercise of the revaluation. So I hope, members of the press, that you will note that this is an effort that, in fact, is long overdue and one on which we have now embarked. Let me move quickly to the Ministry of Health. The Ministry of Health has reported that 9 desktops and 7 laptops were donated to the ministry by PAHO through the Pandemic Fund. These devices will be used in the areas of syndromic surveillance, monitoring pre-diagnostic health-related data in near real time, and HEARTS project to prevent and manage hypertension and diabetes at the primary health care level, and DHIS2 project designed to digitize and strengthen public health infrastructure. We certainly thank PAHO for this timely and generous donation. Gender affairs. I want to spend some time and talk about gender affairs. I don't think they get enough mention. I don't think sometimes they get enough credit. I want to, of course, salute our minister, the Honorable Janelle Nisbet, who leads this ministry, but her entire team, Permanent Secretary, Assistant Permanent Secretary, and those who work so hard. Now, gender affairs is all about gender. Some people like to say it's about women's affairs. No. It caters to both men and women. It caters to gender. And the idea really is to promote gender equality, ensure that we fight any type of stigma or inequality associated with one's gender. And so the department continues to do excellent work, and I want from this rostrum to congratulate them and to thank them. Their work does not go unnoticed, and they are impacting people at the community level. Real people, real families, real impact. The Department of Gender Affairs wishes to highlight the successful observance of the International Day of the Boy Child through the hosting of the 2026 Boys of Excellence Awards ceremony. This year, 14 outstanding students were nominated by their respective schools and recognized for their excellence and character. Mr. Kyron Hendrickson from the Cicely Brown Integrated School, Mr. Ezra Hanley, Ivor Walters, Mr. Kimari Reed, Maud Cross, Mr. Naim Morton, Montessori, Mr. Kaiji Powell, Nevis Academy, Mr. Jalik Chambers, Charlestown Primary, Mr. Israel Webb, St. Thomas's Primary, Mr. Hazo Otley, St. James Primary, Mr. Elvon Herbert of the Violet O. Jeffers, Mr. Teodran Truss, known by us all as Tiger, Elizabeth Pemberton Primary, Mr. Aaron Daljit, Joycelyn Libert Primary, Mr. Cleston Bartlett of the Gingerland Secondary School, Mr. Kimani Newton of the Charlestown Secondary School, and Mr. Jediah Carter of the Nevis International Secondary School. 14 young men and boys recognized as boys of excellence. And that is really our attempt to showcase and spotlight young males who are doing great things, who are exhibiting the type of character, the type of tenacity, the type of good instincts that we want to see in our men in our society. We extend, of course, heartiest congratulations to them all. In terms of community development, another department which is doing outstanding work, and again, a department that I want to congratulate. The leader there now is Ms. Smitten, Denicia Smitten, I think. I hope I have that correct. And I want to congratulate her and her team on the excellent work that they've been doing. They are everywhere. They're involved in everything. And they're currently celebrating Community Development Month under the theme, Empowering People, Enriching Lives, Our Community, Our Pride. They've had a church service at the Jessup's Methodist Church. And on May 4th, they joined the Jessup's community management team in the hosting of the annual Jessup Seafood Fiesta. That is a must-see, must-attend event each year. They have also participated in the Let's Talk program on the famous VON radio. On May 9th, they hosted a hike to the waterfalls from the Nevis Prison Farm area. On May 14th, they hosted Building Bridges Stakeholders Social at the Pond Hill Community Center, where they welcomed over 30 participants representing a wide cross-section of groups and organizations, including reps from the health sector, persons with disabilities, the Rastafarian community, village groups, sporting clubs, etc. And the event really was about information sharing and camaraderie, bringing people together. Craig David facilitated, and we thank Craig for that. On Thursday and Friday, May 21st and 22nd, they had their annual jumbo sale, which is much anticipated. And on Friday, May 22nd, they also held their Community Cares Soup Day. On that day in Charlestown, they handed out nutritious soup to those who wanted, and they hoped that by so doing, they would have reached those who perhaps were needing of care and needing of some nourishment. And I just want to say thank you to them for caring about the people of Nevis and for demonstrating as a government that we put our people first. The Nevis Multicultural Heritage Festival, that is the third event this year. That's on Saturday, May 30th. Now, I can tell you, members of the press, that I have been to it, and I recommend that you go. It is really a kaleidoscope of food, culture, music, and it really showcases how many different cultures and how many different people, nationalities now call Nevis home. And so I'm told that they will have dishes there from the Dominican Republic, Guyana, of course, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, Dominica, Grenada, the Philippines, India, different countries in Africa, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and even Japan. So if you want sushi, you should go, because they are going to have all this food on display. They're going to have a domino tournament and other entertaining activities, not only for the adults, but for the children as well. They will have traditional cassava bread making, a live breadfruit dish demonstration with our local chef, renowned Michael Henville, and a wide selection of locally produced goods, including local drinks, pepper sauces, etc. So we expect that our agro-processors are going to be there in their number as well. We have house DJs, DJ Zimba, Honeybee's string band is going to be there, and they have a live performance from Garlic and the Upper Level Band. And guess what? For all of this, you're paying a meager $5 to enter the venue. It's at the MGR Park, and we expect that one and all will go out and support. They have a host of sponsors, and we thank all of the sponsors for this. But Community Affairs hasn't stopped in there. They've asked me to tell you that on June 5th, they have a bread nut affair. This will be at the Department of Community Development. They will host this at the Pond Hill Community Center from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Friday, June 5th. The department invites one and all to come and explore the versatile flavors of the bread nut, sample various dishes, and discover its true potential. On the menu, there'll be curried bread nut in coconut milk, bread nut soup, bread nut ice cream, bread nut chowder, broiled bread nut muffins, etc. $10 will get you 3 samples, please. On Friday, June 5th, go check out the Bread Nut Affair. And then they're not stopping there. They also have the Barnesgut Breadfruit Festival. So now we're going from bread nut to breadfruit. I hope that no expats out there are confused. The bread nut is one fruit, bread nut is one thing, breadfruit is something else. And so bread nut affair is happening at the Pond Community Center from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Friday, June 5th. The Barnesgut Breadfruit Festival now, that's happening for the 12th annual Barnesgut Breadfruit Festival. That event takes place on Saturday, June 20th at the Barnesgut Community Center. It will feature many dishes made from breadfruit, performances as well, and of course, the always highly anticipated breadfruit peeling competition. The Department of Social Services, yet another aspect of this government taking care of people. We're very proud of the RISE program, and they would have hosted on 14th April 2026 a RISE program dealing with menstrual health and journaling session for RISE participants. That was facilitated by Ms. Cyrus Hendrickson, our Director of Gender Affairs, who continues to do an excellent job. Congratulations to her and her team. Additionally, on the 11th of May, we would have collaborated with Gender Affairs for the Own Your Future workshop, where nearly 100% of RISE clients participated. The event provided informative and practical sessions, particularly benefiting clients who were unable to attend the money management workshop early this year. The RISE program is all about giving the clients the needs, the tools that they need to function more effectively in our society. We are not giving them a fish, we are teaching them how to fish. We're teaching them how to sustain themselves through education, through subjects, through money management, through encouragement and support in terms of their health needs and otherwise. And this is an investment that is being made in our people. Our people matter most. Family services, yet another aspect of what we're seeking to do in terms of our demonstration of our care and commitment to our people. They're currently continuing their Safe and Unsafe Touches campaign. Members of the media think this is worthy. We have a Safe and Unsafe Touches campaign, Touches, touches. When you touch someone, Safe and Unsafe Touching campaign in our primary schools. That initiative is aimed at educating children about personal safety, appropriate boundaries, and the importance of speaking up when they feel uncomfortable or unsafe. At present, we have ongoing presentations being conducted at the VOJN Primary School, and the unit will soon begin sessions at the Jerusalem Library Primary School as well. Now, for those of you who are wondering, safe touches are touches that make a child feel cared for, protected, and comfortable, such as a hug from a trusted family member or a pat on the back for encouragement. Unsafe touches are touches that make a child feel uncomfortable, frightened, confused, or hurt, and children are encouraged to report such experiences to a trusted adult immediately. The campaign also teaches children about their right to personal safety and body autonomy. Additionally, during this month, the foster children will be participating in a nail artistry session. That activity is intended to provide the children with a creative and engaging learning experience while encouraging self-expression and skill development. Now let me move from the children to our seniors. The Social Services Seniors Division and members of the recreational group would have worshipped at the Brownhill Seventh-day Adventist Church on Saturday, 11th May for Mother's Day. Also on Wednesday, 13th May, 10 persons from Nevis, 7 seniors and 3 staff members attended a cybersecurity workshop for older adults in St. Kitts. This workshop was to educate senior citizens on ways to detect misinformation and online scams and to use their digital platforms safely, how to add extra security when setting up accounts, and the importance of reporting cyber hacks to authorities. That workshop was funded by UNESCO. Now, I've taken some time, members of the press, because I want you to understand that we are engaging with all of our people. We're engaging with our youth. We're engaging with those families that are at risk. We're engaging with those who require foster care. We're engaging with our seniors. We are demonstrating as a government that everyone in Nevis matters. and we are not just saying it. The reason that I'm making these reports is because these departments and the people who work there are working hard each and every day to provide care, protection, guidance for the people of Nevis. And I can't say enough in terms of my gratitude to them for all that they're doing. Let me give you some quick updates from the Nevis Tourism Authority. In terms of global visibility, I can say that we've been featured in Condé Nast Travel, Travel Pulse, Travel and Tour World, Rolling Out, Miami Living, New York Trend, and Breaking Travel News. Condé Nast Travel has recognized Nevis as one of the ultimate Caribbean islands to visit. Coverage across regional and international platforms such as Travel to Latam, ABC Mondial, Recommend Magazine, and Travel Dreams Magazine continue to augment Nevis's presence in a regional and international space as a bespoke luxury destination. Let me also say, members of the press, I'm quite proud that we have launched our Spring into Summer campaign. The Nevis Tourism Authority officially launched its Spring into Summer. Interesting play on words. We're springing into summer. Inviting travelers to experience the islands with culture, wellness, adventure, and authentic Caribbean charm. The campaign highlights signature summer experiences including the Nevis Mango Festival, Nevis Culturama Festival, wellness escapes, culinary experiences, and nature-based adventures. Special seasonal offers and curated hotel packages are available across participating properties, including luxury stays, wellness retreats, complimentary nights, resort credits, and exclusive summer savings. The campaign promotes Nevis as a premier barefoot luxury destination, emphasizing authenticity, tranquility, sustainability, and meaningful visitor experiences. Please visit www.nevisisland.com for more information. In terms of our continuing marketing efforts, the Nevis Tourism Authority would have participated alongside the St. Kitts Tourism Authority at the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association CHTA Caribbean Travel Marketplace 2026 in Antigua, and the results have been spectacular. We want to thank our CEO, Andy Raveri, and her team who would have participated at that event in Antigua. And that event was intended to secure interviews, which we did with leading international travel media publications, strengthening Nevis's visibility, within key tourism markets. We would have conducted their dedicated press conference that directly engaged travel media and highlighted Nevis's latest tourism initiatives and campaigns. We would have facilitated strategic in-person meetings with travel trade and media stakeholders, increased destination exposure through targeted media engagement focused on Nevis, strengthen relationships with international tourism partners and media professionals, and we continue to position ourselves, not through noise, but through authenticity, strategic visibility, meaningful partnerships, and a commitment to ensuring our destination remains globally relevant, desirable, and competitive. Let me also report, members of the press, that I led a delegation to St. Bart's for the Saveur Caribe 2026 celebration. We would have participated on the invitation of the St. Bart's Tourism Authorities as the Caribbean island that was featured in St. Bart's for this year's staging of the event. And the Nevis Mango Festival, and indeed Nevis Mangoes, took center stage. It emerged as a highlight of the festival. We had the Odyssey Band that traveled with us to provide entertainment. We had chefs, Chef Joel Phillip and Wilroy Webb. They created some marvelous dishes, including goat water. They ran out because everybody wanted it. And we had, of course, the mangoes. Now, I will tell you that I was told by agriculture that they sent over 500 emery pollies and they disappeared. Everybody was buying them. And they were selling one mango for €1. So it was not too bad. I think the price was reasonable. 5 mangoes for €5 wasn't bad. And what I thought was really wonderful, members of the press and public, is as I walked along the boardwalk in Gustavia, I saw all these people clutching their bag of mangoes, Nevis mangoes, and heading home from the event. So it clearly was a huge hit. We also had the Chamber of Commerce from Nevis was represented there. And we think, again, that that is a great initiative as they explore business opportunities. I have said it elsewhere, and I say it now again, that St. Bart's has a huge appetite for vegetables, for lettuce, tomatoes, for coconuts, for mangoes and fruits. Anything that is fresh and available, they have an appetite for it. Why? Because they don't grow very much on the island, and much of what they get on that island is coming all the way, believe it or not, from France. And so it has to be shipped from France, and then from France it goes to Guadeloupe, and then eventually it gets to St. Bart's. Nevis is only a 2-hour boat ride away. So there are a host of opportunities to engage with them if only we can get our entrepreneurial spirit going and find a way. And I'm happy to report that I've said this publicly before, and at least 2 young men have approached indicating that they want the necessary connections because they now want to start to ship vegetables and fruits to St. Bart's. And so we're trying our very best to get that market going. And to put it in context, members of the press, we stayed at a hotel, and the hotel offered a complimentary breakfast, or should I say the breakfast was included in the price at the hotel. But they also offered coconuts, what we would call jelly. So you could get the coconut water. They offered coconuts at an additional price. So if you wanted a coconut, you had to pay additionally. And I hope, well, I'm glad to see all the members of the press are sitting down. I was happy that I was sitting down because one coconut cost 24 euros. 24 euros. That is equivalent, I believe, of about 75 EC dollars for one coconut. And so it's a huge market that's available for us at clearly a very significant markup if we can just get our goods into St. Bart's. And so I encourage those farmers out there to start to think about it and to think that you could get, well, we won't sell it to them for that, but that is what the hotel is selling it at. I was simply astonished that people were buying one coconut for 24 euros, roughly 30 US dollars at this hotel. It's truly phenomenal. Let me go on to congratulate Fayon Jones, our Director of Marketing at the Nevis Tourism Authority, and the team, because we also were represented at the renowned Food, Wine, and Fete Festival in Miami, where again we showcased the Nevis Mango Festival. Let me commend Ceci Serrato, our U.S. Public Relations representative, who along with Fayon Jones were the ones there in Miami, and they said they had some mango ice lollies, or mango, what do you call the thing? Popsicles, sorry, which sold out in no time. And so we are grateful to them for their continued efforts. Speaking of the Mango Festival, I can tell you that the planning is well underway, and we're making the final call for early bird tickets is now in effect. VIP tickets are also available at special early bird rates for a limited time. The exclusive masterclass featuring celebrity chef Eric Ajepong is officially sold out. So, we can't, those of us who don't yet have tickets to go to that masterclass, unfortunately it's sold out. This year's Supper Club dinner will be hosted by Chef Eric Ajepong, and that will be done at the Mango Restaurant, Four Seasons. Tickets are not yet on sale, but will go on sale soon. And I'm happy to report that more than 50 local chefs are committed to participating in the popular For the Love of Mango culinary showcase on the final Sunday. Visitors and supporters are encouraged to stay tuned to the official Nevis Mango Festival website, www.nevismangofest.com, and on Facebook and Instagram at Nevis Mango Fest for all of the festival updates. Let me move quickly, ladies and gentlemen, to the department, critical department, Ministry of Education, Library Services, Youth and Sport. The 2026 Summer Job Attachment Program. The Department of Youth does this program annually, again, where we take care of our people. This now is a youth-related program, and that program ordinarily takes place during the summer. What this program is designed to do is to attach youngsters to various jobs around the island. Well, I'm to report to you today that applications for the 2026 Summer Job Attachment Program are now officially closed as the program has reached its full capacity. It means that the uptake is quite good. We continue to thank parents and the youngsters themselves for getting involved, and we continue to encourage businesses out there, please, come on board with us. It is one thing to complain about our young people who might be going astray. Let's stop complaining so much and start to find solutions. This is one possibility, partnering with the government to provide a place for a youngster or youngsters to come and work with you during the summer. It teaches them critical skills. We are, of course, urging those who are enrolled to show up promptly and to act professionally and to present the best of themselves. Many of these youngsters go on to find meaningful employment with those very employers that they intern with. And so we encourage them to do their very best. We had the 17th annual Interscholastic Spelling Bee that happened on Friday, 15th May, and we extend congratulations to all of the schools. Special commendations are extended to the winners of the 2026 Spelling Bee. For the primary schools, first place went to, of course, Ivor Walters Primary School. Second place went to Joycean Liebert Primary. Third place was secured by the Maud Cross Preparatory School. We extend special congrats to the top primary school speller, Shara Swaminathan of the Joycean Liebert Primary School, whose outstanding performance was truly commendable. In the secondary schools competition, first place went to Gingerland Secondary School. Second place went to Charlestown Secondary School. Special congratulations extended to Cadmiel Christmas of the Gingerland Secondary School. He emerged as a top secondary school speller. Now this is important, ladies and gentlemen, because we know that with these devices that we now use, they spell for us. Sometimes they spell wrong and all. But they do what they call predictive text and all kinds of things. So you want to say Monday and they write something else. That is the nature of things. And so many of us now don't spell as well as we used to. So having these spelling bee competitions is still quite relevant to ensure that our young people do not lose the ability to spell and to spell well. We want to thank our sponsors, especially Dr. Lornette Mills for the Dr. Lornette Mills Charitable Fund in collaboration with the Nevis Association of South Florida and HarperCollins Publishers. Now, ladies and gentlemen, for those out there who are interested in teaching, each year we do what we call a prospective teachers course. I'm happy to announce that the Department of Education is reminding persons who are interested that registration is currently open for the 2026 prospective teachers course, which is scheduled to run from June 15 to June 26. Application will be accepted until Wednesday, May 27. That's tomorrow. So I encourage you, if you have not yet applied, please apply. Application packages can be collected from the Department of Education right there at Marion Heights. Let me move to something that's near and dear to me, and I know near and dear to the Minister of Education, the Honorable Troy Liebert. And that is the Department of Education STEM Week 2026. STEM education has become critically important to us here in Nevis and what we're seeking to do. And we are doing this on the theme of empowering Nevis, digital literacy, and TVET for a future-ready generation. So we're teaching skills and we're teaching digital skills. Very important for today's world. And so we have a host of activities which include Math Infusion Day in all the schools, Science Infusion Day in all the schools, Digital Literacy Infusion Day in all the schools. Now, we all know that math and science are seen by many of us as difficult subjects. And as a result, we have seen a falling off in results for math and science over the years. This approach that we're taking now is intended to reverse that trend. And the minister and his team, the hard-working PS, Zanella Claxton, I always have to mention her, but the entire team. They have been working hard. Jamia Claxton, of course, the famous Eto from Bath as well. They've all been working really hard in terms of just bringing the various strands of the ministry together to benefit our people. You'll hear that being said a lot today, because I think that sometimes when we talk about what we're doing, we don't emphasize enough that at the bedrock, at the foundation of what we do as government is to benefit our people. So all these programs you're hearing about are intended to benefit our people. The NIA remains firmly committed to advancing STEM education and expanding opportunities for our students to develop the critical skills needed to thrive in an increasingly digital and technologically driven world. Through continued investment in STEM and TVET initiatives, we are working to equip our young people to become innovative thinkers, skilled professionals, and future leaders who can contribute meaningfully to national development. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if all that I've said doesn't warrant a headline, I'm hoping that this warrants a headline. And that is the space science experiment. You've heard me mention it before, but the Ministry of Education is very pleased to provide an update on the ongoing international STEM collaboration involving educators and students from Nevis and the St. Kitts and Nevis Robotics Association. The project is being led by Education Officer with responsibility for STEM, Mr. Williams, and has been made possible for the collaborative efforts of volunteer high school science teachers, Director of IT, Mr. Craig David, present and former students, and members of the St. Kitts and Nevis Robotics Association. This phase of the project has progressed exceptionally well, and the team has designed a real-world science experiment that is scheduled to fly on a suborbital mission at Esrange Space Center in Sweden this week. Two teachers, Mr. Richard Galloway of the Gingerland Secondary School, Ms. Ralda Brathwaite of the Charleston Secondary School, along with Mr. John Williams, who leads the program, are currently at the Esrange Space Center preparing for this week's launch. Over the past 2 years, the team has worked tirelessly in preparation for this mission. While the experiment itself, and not human participants, will travel aboard a suborbital flight, an extraordinary amount of technical preparation, research, coordination, and testing has been undertaken to bring the project to this stage. We also, of course, acknowledge the continued support being provided on the ground in St. Kitts and Nevis by the Information Technology Department and representatives of the St. Kitts and Nevis Robotics Association. This, ladies and gentlemen, represents a landmark achievement, not only for the participating schools, but also for STEM education on Nevis as a whole. We are truly excited that Nevis is now going into outer space. In addition, we are pleased to share that through this project, a fully functional cell culture laboratory is currently being established at the Charleston Secondary School. The laboratory equipment was generously donated through the leadership and support of Dr. Cora Thiel and Dr. Oliver Ulrich of the University of Zurich in Switzerland. We anticipate that teachers and students will have full access to the space for the upcoming academic year. This development marks another significant step forward in strengthening STEM education, scientific research opportunities, and hands-on learning experiences for students in Nevis. And if you want to know what the Cell Culture Laboratory does, please Google it. Thank you. The Ministry of Education remains committed to expanding opportunities in science, technology, engineering, and innovation as we continue preparing our students to thrive in an increasingly global and technologically driven world. If you ask me, ladies and gentlemen, what are some of the achievements? I hope one of you might ask me that question. What are some of the achievements of this government? I will tell you that a significant achievement is this: the idea that our young people can be involved in a project in partnership with international partners to put something in space. I think that is simply phenomenal, beyond the imagination of most of us. But this just tells you what is possible. And so again, I commend the Honorable Troy Liebert and his entire team. They have been doing an excellent job insofar as our education is concerned, and STEM education in particular. Let me move quickly to Child Month, and to say that the Department of Education is observing Child Month under the theme Fueling Our Bodies with the Best, Good Nutrition, Movement, and Rest. And throughout the month of June, there'll be a series of activities. Now, my favorite activity is the annual parade day, and that will be on June 19th, Friday. And of course, the students all take to the streets of Charlestown, especially the early childhood sector, along with parents and guardians. That is a beautiful activity that we all participate in. And I love to see when the parents come out, everybody line the street, they want to see the youngsters. And so we have that early childhood education, that March annual parade, which takes place on Friday, June 19th. Activities will culminate with the annual Child Month Parade on St. Kitts on Friday, June 26th. And so we encourage parents, teachers, stakeholders, everyone to come out and support. Now, another major announcement. I did say there would be a few. And that is that we are proud to announce through the Department of Sports that we have officially launched, forgive me, we will officially launch tomorrow, Wednesday, May 27th, 4 p.m., at the Villa Grounds, the Nevis Cricket Academy. Under the inspiring theme, Our Sport, Our Culture, this academy represents a landmark moment in the sporting history of our island. Cricket is not merely a game on Nevis, it is woven into the very fabric of who we are as a people. It carries our stories, our struggles, our triumphs, and our traditions. The establishment of this academy is therefore deeply meaningful, and it is a huge investment, not just in sport, but in our culture and in our community. The Nevis Cricket Academy will serve over 100 male and female athletes between the ages of 7 and 15. From its very inception, we have been intentional about inclusivity by ensuring that both our young boys and girls have equal access to structured, high-quality cricket development. The Academy's philosophy is anchored in a powerful vision we call building champions in sport and life. We are not only developing cricketers, but we are shaping character. The core values embedded in our program, discipline, teamwork, respect, and sportsmanship, are the same values that will serve our young people far beyond the boundary rope, in their schools, their homes, their workplaces, and in everything they pursue throughout their lives. I wish to commend the Ministry of Sports for the vision, planning, and dedication that has brought this academy to life. To our coaches, administrators, and all who will serve within this program, your contribution is of immense value to the future of Nevis. Jamir Claxton, if you're out there, take a bow. Algie Newton, if you're out there, take a bow. Of course, I've mentioned Zanella Claxton before, but if you're out there, take a bow. And our minister, the Honorable Troy Liebert, we are doing some great things in terms of sport and the development of our youth. We haven't stopped there, however, and I'm happy to say that we have recently distributed some cricket gear. So, in addition to the launch of the Nevis Cricket Academy, the Department of Sports will be distributing complete cricket gear bags to every primary school on the island of Nevis. Every school on the island of Nevis is going to get cricket gear from this government. It's a direct expression of our belief that children deserve the opportunity to play, to compete, and to excel, and to have the equipment to do so. These gear bags will not only benefit our student athletes, they will also empower our teachers and coaches, giving them the resources they need to introduce, teach, and develop cricket at the earliest levels. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this initiative stands as testimony to our administration's commitment, and we will continue to provide resources that make sports development a reality for every child on the island of Nevis. Now, some more good news. I turn with immense pride and gratitude to an achievement that has brought great honor to our island, the 2026 St. Kitts Nevis Inter-Island Athletic Championship. On Sunday, May 3rd, the Nevis Athletic Stadium served as a proud host venue for this prestigious championship, bringing together some of the finest primary school athletes from across St. Kitts and Nevis. The competition was a spectacular showcase of talent, determination, sportsmanship, and national pride. I am proud to report that at the conclusion of the competition, Team Nevis emerged victorious and were crowned champions of the 2026 St. Kitts Nevis Inter-Island Athletic Championship. Our athletes delivered an outstanding overall performance throughout the meet, securing an impressive medal tally of 19 golds, 14 silvers, and 10 bronze. So kudos to Team Nevis. Also kudos to Team St. Kitts, who put up a spirited performance as well. On behalf of the government of Nevis, I wish to once again extend our sincerest congratulations to every member of Team Nevis, the athletes who gave their all on the track, the coaches who prepared and guided them, the parents and families who offered their unwavering support, and all others who made a contribution. You all have made Nevis crowd. Masters cricket. We just came out of the Masters cricket tournament over this weekend. In fact, this weekend was a huge sporting weekend in Nevis. And I am to announce that Team Antigua would have repeated as champions and would have won the championship in a final that was played against Team St. Kitts. And so kudos to Team Antigua, kudos to runners-up, Team St. Kitts. Team St. Kitts, in fact, would have beaten Nevis to move to the finals. I was at that St. Kitts versus Nevis match. I took in some part of that. And, of course, Nevis would have fallen to the superior play from our sister island. The only comfort that those of us from Nevis took is that some in the crowd said, well, the Federation won. That is the only thing we could say because Nevis lost to St. Kitts, so we reverted to saying the Federation won. But St. Kitts beat Nevis right there at the Brantley cricket ground and then went into the finals at the ETW Park against Antigua, and Antigua emerged victorious. Kudos to Antigua. They did say they would repeat, they did say they would win, and they did an excellent job, and we're grateful to them. I want to just take a moment to thank the organizers. I want to specifically thank Oscar Brown, King Astro. He is, of course, not the only organizer, but I will tell you that he called nearly every day. He was involved with every department of government to make sure that the necessary arrangements were made for the visiting teams. And we had teams that came in from St. Kitts, from Antigua, from Anguilla, St. Croix, St. Thomas, St. Martin, teams that came in from all of those islands. And many of those teams came in, they brought significant support staff and supporters with them. In fact, I'm told one team had over 40 members traveling with them. The result of that is that every single guest house in Nevis was sold out. And some of the hotels, Wally Beach and Hamilton Beach, I'm told, were also sold out. Now, one would have thought that that was enough for Nevis for the weekend, but no. We also had a massive drag racing event that took place over the weekend in Nevis. And that drag racing event would have attracted, I'm told, well over 50 cars from various islands around the region. Minister Liebert, again, I keep mentioning him because he came to the cabinet and he said to us that we had an approach by some local businessmen who wanted to partner with the government on this. And I believe that the result speaks volumes. This is the way that we have to go. In relation to some of these sporting activities, it is not possible for the government alone to carry the weight of these activities. We have the venue, and these partners came on board and worked with us. And so I want to commend them, fellows like Sean Rollins and Lon Daniel and others who came on board and were partners with us to stage this spectacular event. Now, I confess that I am not into speed. That's not my thing. But I did go to the drag races, and I was very, very impressed at the number of people who were there, the vibe and the energy that was there. It's certainly something clearly that the young people enjoy and have been enjoying. And again, it brought fans and individuals from all across the region. In fact, I ran into some young people who said to me that they'd come all the way from California to be here for the drag racing. And so, again, in terms of the spin-offs, the hotels, the car rentals, the restaurants, the supermarkets, everybody made something this weekend, and I am truly, truly grateful for that. I'm sure you'll hear more about the drag race and the Masters cricket, but since we're literally coming off the weekend when we enjoyed those sports, I wanted to just mention them as well in this press conference. Ladies and gentlemen, way back in 2020, at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, we were bold and audacious enough as a Nevis Island administration to say that we were going to start a film industry. And whilst the usual noises in opposition were made, we pressed ahead. And we continue to see substantial gains being made in that particular area. As you know, we now have set up the Nevis Film Commission, and we had a short film that was done here called Pangel. It was done by our own Juliet Jeffers, who's a daughter of the soil, but Juliet plies her craft. She's an actress. She's a producer in the United States. And Juliet Jeffers came to Nevis to do Pan Girl, using mostly a local cast and crew. Well, I think members of the press, you would know that the Cannes Film Festival is the biggest and most prestigious film festival in the world. It's done in Cannes in the south of France each year. And at the Cannes Film Festival this year, I'm proud to announce that Pan Girl, filmed here in Nevis, won 2 awards at the Diversity in Cannes Short Film Festival. The short film Pan Girl, directed by Juliet Jeffers, was nominated for 6 awards and won 2. The film won Best First-Time Filmmaker, that went to Juliet Jeffers, and Best Original Song, Kaiso Ecstasy by Javid Allen of St. Kitts. And so both Ms. Jeffers and Mr. Allen have done something extraordinary by winning an award at the Cannes Film Festival, Diversity in Cannes Short Film Festival, and I think that this is extraordinary. Following the historical success at the Diversity in Cannes Short Film Festival, Pan Girl will next screen at the American Black Film Festival after being officially selected for the festival's Voices of Culture Showcase. The screening is scheduled for Friday, May 30th at the Miami Beach Convention Center as part of the festival's 30th anniversary edition. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if my words can truly capture how proud I feel as the Premier of Nevis to see a short film done in Nevis by Nevisians, starring most of the Nevisians, being recognized globally. This lends the lie to those who keep telling us that we're small and must sit down in the back of the bus. We're small and we must stay back. This tells us, as I've consistently said, that we're only limited by the extent of our ambitions. The audacity of Nevis to start a film industry. The audacity of Juliet Jeffers to come and say, I want to do something for Nevis, give something back. She has come and she has hosted acting classes here at NEPAC and at the MJR Park. She didn't have to do it. She decided she wanted to do it because she's a daughter of the soil. She wanted to give something back. A perfect example of our diaspora helping to build Nevis. And here we are, Pan Girl. I think the star in it is a young lady, Hadassah, I think her name is. Young woman right here in Nevis. She starred in that film. We had others who also are there, local Nevisians, playing a role. And I'm just overwhelmed, to be honest with you. I'm so impressed with what we have been able to accomplish thus far. And I really hope that we continue to strive and continue to work towards realizing that dream and that vision of creating a substantial film sector here on the island of Nevis. Members of the press, you will also recall that PBS Appalachia, that they would have come to Nevis and would have filmed their Emmy Award-winning series Hometown on Nevis. The first time that they have ventured outside the United States was to come to Nevis. And we want to congratulate them. They have earned 9 Emmy Award nominations, including, I'm told, for their Hometowns series. And so, again, we think that our involvement with them, our partnership with them, is bearing spectacular fruit. Our Nevis Film Commission has also been able to gain global spotlight in Travel Noir and New York Trend, New York City. The Commission has been featured in both of those publications, and the coverage underscores the NIA's vision of reclaiming Nevis's global narrative through authentic storytelling and cinematic partnerships. Productions such as Christmas in the Caribbean, 1 Year Off, and the upcoming Paradise with You, starring Tay Diggs and Cynthia Bailey, highlight Nevis's appeal as a luxury boutique filming destination. With 1.3 million monthly website visitors and an Instagram audience of 625,000, Travel Noir amplifies Nevis's story to a global millennial audience, particularly within the African diaspora. New York Trend, New York City connects with 1.96 million weekly readers, reaching demographics that shape culture and influence trends. Again, this is what we are seeking to do. And in that vein, let me announce that a UK film producer will visit Nevis later this week to meet with the Film Commission and several industry partners to explore filming a full-length feature on the island of Nevis later this week. Some quick updates, because as you know, come June 1st, we go into the hurricane season. The Honorable Spencer Brand, who has been leading this ministry with exceptional ability, he has convened his first Nevis Disaster Management Committee meeting. He's the chairman, and he would have convened that meeting on May 7th as we get ready for any eventuality coming out of the hurricane season. As we like to say, we pray to God for the best, but we prepare for the worst. Representatives from all subcommittees, government agencies, NGOs, volunteer groups were in attendance. We thank Minister Brand for his leadership. U.S. University Study Abroad program in St. Kitts and Nevis. We welcome the delegation of 14 faculty members and students from Widener University and Utah Valley University for their annual Study Abroad program held from May 16 to 23rd. The delegation was led by Dr. Audrey Snyder of Widener University, someone with whom we have an excellent and long-standing relationship. The delegation, I'm told, were engaged in a host of activities here, but also had some time to enjoy all that Nevis has to offer. Ladies and gentlemen, no doubt you would know that this year's hurricane season is predicted to be what they call a below normal season. Below normal doesn't mean that we ought to relax, but they predict that it will be below normal. The National Hurricane Center for the Atlantic hurricane season prediction that there's a 55% chance of a below normal season, a 35% chance of a near normal season, and a 10% chance of an above normal season. They anticipate 8 to 14 named storms. 3 to 6 are expected to become hurricanes, and 1 to 3 could become major hurricanes. Let us continue to prepare and to stay in touch with the Nevis Disaster Management to find out all that we need to know. Emergency shelters, by way of update and information, are at the Girl Guides headquarters here in Charlestown, just there in Stony Grove, Pond Hill Community Center, the Ebenezer Church of God, the Charles Walters Community Center, Franklin Brown Community Center, the Cotton Ground Community Center, the Barnes Gut Community Center, and the Jessups Community Center. I'm told that we have the capacity to host at our emergency shelters just about 648 persons. And so again, we continue to pray for the best, but prepare for the worst. The Nevis Disaster Management has scheduled the annual shelter and shelter management training this year for the period 2nd to 5th June. So we're training the center managers as well. In terms of our drilling project, we have now shifted from church ground. We've gone back to Descents, and we expect that the drilling will resume at Descents soon. And the 500,000 gallon storage tank at Stony Hill, that is nearing completion. Public Works continue to do a number of roads. If you're driving in the Pond Hill area on the Island Main Road, you'll realize that we've done approximately 2,800 feet of resurfacing on the Island Main Road. And I'm pleased to announce that the Morgan's Estate Road, right in Upper Morning Star, Upper Brown Pastures, I like to say, that is now 95% complete and is well on its way to final completion. I think that that road has been talked about a lot, but it is now really within sight. And I want to thank the contractor, Mr. Egbert Clark, and his team for the excellent job that they're doing. We also are finishing now the Jessups Community Center wall. Eastern side is completed, and once that is done, of course, we will take on some roadworks there for the good people of Jessups. Let me turn very quickly to the Department of Agriculture and Marine Resources. The Department of Agriculture is currently celebrating Agriculture Awareness Month. To date, 2 workshops have been held in collaboration with CARDI. These include a sweet potato weevil management workshop and a small ruminant management workshop. Both were very well received. Let me make an announcement, because I think those of you who follow me on social media know that I'm always promoting backyard gardening and asking Nevisians that when you do your homes and you're doing your landscaping, palms are beautiful, ficus and all of those things look great, but they can't eat. I'm suggesting that you also plant something that you can eat. Edible landscaping. That's what I'm calling it. Plant something that you can eat. The palms that you cannot eat look nice, but so do coconut palms, which be a coconut that you can eat. And you hear 24 euros for one in St. Bart's. So who knows, maybe you can sell as well. So plant something you can eat. Plant fruit trees. Decorate. Make sure you have some mango. Decorate. I know people complain about the monkeys, but the monkey's not going to get all. You'll get some. Invest, if you're like me, in a few dogs. And let us continue to plant. It's important that we plant food. As the world gets more volatile and more difficult, as food prices continue to skyrocket, your ability to go out in your garden and pick something is important. Plant something. No. As part of that, the agricultural department is telling me to tell you that fruit trees and seedlings will be distributed to the general public on the 26th of May, beginning at 8:30 a.m. That is today. They're distributing seedlings and fruit trees. And what's available? They have Suriname cherry, soursop, mulberry, strawberries, pomegranate, and sugar apple. Distribution will be on a first-come, first-served basis. I bet you all didn't know that we're growing strawberries in Nevis. You can go right there and get your strawberry seedlings. This is, again, an effort to encourage our people. I don't want our people to have any excuses. We're making the plants and the seedlings available to you. Go and get them. Take them home, put them in the ground. Put them in a pot on your veranda. But grow something, please. Culturama. We know that Culturama is going to be celebrated from 23rd July to 4th August this year under the theme Our Heritage, Proud and True. It's Culturama 52. Registration for the Road March closes on Friday, 26th June. Senior Street Parade closes on Friday, 3rd July. Juve Troop closes on Friday, 3rd July. And street vending closes on Friday, 10th July. Please go to www.culturamanevis.com for all of your updates. On May 1st, the senior pageant contestants were officially revealed. This year's launch featured a new venue at Pinnis Beach and a shorter ceremony format. I was there. It was spectacular. National Bank Miss Culture Swimwear pageant contestants. Contestant number 1, Khadijah Mully. Number 2, Thea Claxton. Contestant 3 is Kalisa Pluck. Contestant 4, Kiana Nicholas. Contestant 5 is Esther Gomez. National Bank Mr. Cool Show. Participant number 1 is Devon Brown. Number 2, Ozell Webb. 3, David Morgan. And 4, Degan Elliott. And the Bank of Nevis Miss Culture Queen pageant ambassadors. Ambassador 1 is Cleo Foy. Number 2 is Jerecia Brown. Number 3 is Khalida Smitten. Number 4 is Tirana Maynard. Number 5 is Maya Alexander. On 21st May, the sashing ceremony was held at Yachtsman Grill, where sponsors met their contestants. A great time, I'm told, was had by all. And we recognize the sponsors. Bank of Nevis, Miss Culture Queen Pageant. Bank of Nevis is a title sponsor, but we also have Caribbean Lottery, National Bank, Carib Brewery, Development Bank of St. Kitts Nevis, and SL Hospital. National Bank Miss Culture Swimwear Pageant. National Bank is a title sponsor. We also have Caribbean Digital Displays, Nevis Solid Waste Management Authority, Hines Electrical and Equipment Service, Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation, Queen City Bar and Garden. And the National Bank Mr. Cool Show, the National Bank is a title sponsor. We have Zanzibar, Nevis, Nevisian Heritage Village, Bank of Nevis, Nevis Tourism Authority. We thank all the sponsors and encourage additional sponsors also, please, to come on board. This year, Culturama has had its first soca teaser, which was on the 16th of May. That was at H&M Seafood. I'm told it was a tremendous success. And the next one is at 6 June at 869. Let me go on record to thank the Honorable Eric Evelyn for the stellar work he's doing in agriculture and also the work he's doing in terms of preserving and promoting our culture. And let me, while I'm thanking, thank Swain Evelyn, who is the new man in charge of Nevis Culturama. After well over 2 decades, I think it was, I hope I'm correct in that, of a stalwart, a legend, Abernathy Libert, young Swain Evelyn has taken over. And I believe that based on what I'm seeing, he knows he has big shoes to fill, but he has been doing an excellent job. And some of the innovations that we have seen, like moving the launch to Penny's Beach, was simply phenomenal. And so we congratulate them on the excellent work that they have been doing. From Ministry of Tourism, let me just tell you that we have had the exposition Nevis, and in May we did a number of activities for the 10th edition. We had a fundraiser, and I am very pleased that we were able to present a check of some $5,000 to Mrs. June Quealy, one of our long-standing employees who has had some health challenges. So, Ms. Quealy, if you're listening, we pray and hope that God will touch you and heal you, and that this little amount that we've been able to provide will assist you as you defray the expenses associated with your care. We also had a cleanup, and we were able to remove some 66 bags of garbage from the Penny's Bypass Road. We, of course, also erected a sign at the bottom of the bypass road encouraging Nevisians not to litter, but to keep Nevis clean. I am happy to announce that Mr. Rondre Daniel was the winner of the Bank of Nevis Tourism Youth Congress 2026. The second place went to Alison Gishard of the Gingerland Secondary School, and, forgive me, yes, and third place went to Ajani Hodge, also the Gingerland Secondary School. But young Mr. Daniel walked away the champion. I teased him because he has one a very elaborate hairstyle, and I said to him that I want to get my hair to look like his. But these youngsters are quite creative, and Mr. Daniel walked away. Now, Mr. Daniel will represent Nevis at the Regional CTO Tourism Youth Congress, which is scheduled to be held in Guyana this year in October of 2026. Nevis has won the regional competition on 3 occasions in the past, with Neela Jones, Roger Williams, and Kiana Warner emerging champions. It is a phenomenal achievement for Little Nevis to win that regional competition. That means we beat everybody. And 3 times we have done so in the past. And we expect young Rondre is going to do very well. Rondre Daniel, I look for great things from this youngster. As part of that collaboration and celebration of Exposition Nevis, we also had a night at Passions where we partnered with Passions Restaurant in Cox Village, and we have had over 120 patrons who came out to support. We also had garlic and upper level band, and I think a great time was had by all. And then, ladies and gentlemen, the St. Kitts and Nevis Culinary Month, the 10th anniversary of that will happen in the month of July, and I'm told that the ingredients they've selected this year are 2, passion fruit and a carrot. And so they'll have a number of events associated with that. Please stay tuned for more information. Let me, while I make announcements, also indicate to you that this year Nevis will be hosting the 17th annual AML CFT CPF conference. That is a major regulatory conference, and that is happening here at the Four Seasons from June 15th to 16th, 2026, and we expect attendees to come from all across the world, which is the norm. Let me also indicate that this afternoon we have the Nevis Youth Parliament, and they'll be having a mock sitting of the Nevis Island Assembly starting, I believe, at 4 p.m. All invited to come. A total of 11 youth parliamentarians will participate in the mock sitting. The following are the assigned positions: President, Miss Alyssa Jeffers; Clerk, Miss Alyssa Taylor; Sergeant at Arms, Mr. Kirana Peer. And then the government members: Mr. Chris Clark is the Premier. Minister, Mr. Excellence Nisbet is the Deputy Premier, Minister of Education. Mr. Kedgel Smitten is the Minister of Science and Technology. Miss Sadie Coffey is the nominated member and Minister of Health. And Miss Aquila Bendito is the nominated member and Minister of Culture. Opposition members: Mr. Kenzo Daniel, Leader of the Opposition and Shadow Minister of Culture. Miss Shania Watley, Shadow Minister of Education. And Miss Kayla Mendonca, Shadow Minister of Finance. Earlier this year, the Nevis Youth Parliament was incorporated as a non-profit and is now known as the Nevis Youth Parliamentary Association, capturing youths up to the age of 29. So NYPA invites interested youths up to the age of 29 to seize the opportunity to join our youth parliament. Application forms are available at the legislature's office, Johnson Jones Building at Government Road, located across from the Alexandra Hospital. Ladies and gentlemen, let me end by saying to the government and people of Guyana, Happy Independence Day. Today is the 60th anniversary of the independence of the Republic of Guyana, and I wish them continued success. As we know, many Guyanese call Nevis home. In fact, I was in Cane Garden just on Saturday evening trying to bring some comfort to a family there that is in mourning, and the Guyanese community came out in large number to support. And so I want to say Happy Independence Guyana. All the GT Massive, Happy Independence to you. I will now take whatever questions you may have. And of course, if you have none, that's good. That's okay as well. Or you have some? Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Premier.
Good morning.
Shamika Budgeon, Vaughan Radio. Mr. Premier, why is the NIA not included on the recently updated comprehensive health insurance plan like the federal government? It is understood that some NIA employees visited National Caribbean Insurance to collect their new insurance cards last week and was informed that it doesn't apply to the NIA. It is also understood that some companies and individuals on Nevis have the comprehensive health plan, but not the NIA. Can you shed some light on this? Can we have an update on the courthouse? Are there any plans to move back the staff at its old location? Were there any work done to the building itself? Can we have an update on the geothermal project? The Nevis solid waste dump site at Long Point has grown tremendously. The heap is extremely high. Are there any plans to construct a new site, especially seeing that we have more people living on the island? So, of course, there will be more garbage distribution. So are there any plans for a new site?
Is that it?
No.
Oh, you have more? Okay.
Yes. Can you explain the current status of Rest Haven? Is it a priority of the government? Recently, you mentioned that the Attorney General was supposed to get back to you by the end of April to see if whether or not the Destiny Project can be salvaged. Has he gotten back to you? What is the next step? As it relates to Nevlec in light of the Middle East war, among other things, how long will the government continue with the subsidy on electricity bills for residential places? Is anything in the pipeline for small business places as well, or business places in general? And that's it for me for now. Thank you.
I suspect that's nearly the whole press conference, Ms. Budgeon. Health insurance, why is the NIA not included? Because we're not included. I mean, I think that the people of Nevis and the people of St. Kitts must appreciate that we have two administrations. There's a federal government and there's a Nevis Island administration. And the Nevis Island administration is financially responsible for 95% of what happens on the island of Nevis. In fact, the only thing for which the federal government is responsible in Nevis financially is the police and fire. We assume that because something is implemented, we have to find a way to do it ourselves. And it's like your neighbor deciding that he or she will serve lobster. Sometimes you don't have the lobster money, so you have to eat what you can eat. And I, as Premier of Nevis, have said to our team that we will conduct ourselves as best as we can in a prudent and sensible manner, given the resources that we have available to us. we do not have the resources available to the federal government. We do not have the access to the citizenship by investment flows that they've had over the last 15 years. As you know, over the last 15 years, Nevis collected about 8% of that money. Sinkis held 92% for themselves. They have reserves that we don't have. And so I think that we in Nevis have to temper our expectations sometimes. But having said that, the same is also true in reverse, that there are programs that exist in Nevis that do not exist in Sinkits that benefit the people of Nevis. I can, for example, think of our medical assistance program that exists in Nevis and existed for years, where we offer up to $10,000 to persons who are indigent, persons who need medical assistance but cannot afford it. The NIA has been running that program. In fact, I saw some numbers. We have spent close to $2 million on that program. That program, as far as I'm aware, does not exist in similar fashion on St. Kitts. So oftentimes I think in Nevis we say duplicate we have. And in my part, you're covered. That to me is where it comes to. So in Nevis we may not have the how should I say, the pep and the pizzazz and the tagline and the hype to go with it. But at the end of the day, what is important, Ms. Budgeon, is that our people are covered. And we have the coverage in Nevis. So I want to make that very clear. The courthouse, we have done no work on the courthouse to date, Ms. Budgeon. But I have indicated to the team that we have to make it a priority so that we can get our judge and staff back to where they ought to be. So I hope that by the next time I come, I can give you a report on that. The geothermal project, we are moving ahead. P.S. Daniel is here. He has been very instrumental in that. We are doing a number of things. We're setting up a dedicated geothermal unit within the government, which will exclusively, how should I say, focus on geothermal. We have had some meetings already with Icelandic Drilling. In fact, they have already selected persons to move to the island to be physically here. They have anticipated, I think the date they've suggested to us is the month of August, when they hope that they can mobilize. But we have a number of things to do, including finalizing the acquisition of some lands in the area from some landowners there. So we want to get that done quickly. I would want everybody, all the stakeholders, to understand that while the government is pushing this project, this is a project for all of us. It's a project that will benefit all of Nevis. And so I really want our people to respond and be able to work together in a collaborative fashion to bring this project forward. So we are making good strides. I was in touch with the president of the Caribbean Development Bank just last night to mobilize and see how we can ensure that funds start to flow so that we can get what we need done. So Ms. Budgeon, I'm very happy that we are well within striking distance on the geothermal project. For the first time in many, many years, we can say that we can see that light at the end of the tunnel. The waste site for trash on Nevis, you say that the site has been growing. I don't think it's a secret, Ms. Budgeon, that that site is long past its useful prime date, so to speak. The question I think that we have to confront as an island is, do we now go out and find acres and acres of land to create yet another site? Or do we instead seek to do a better job at waste management? And so one of the things that you've seen, I like to say in these press conferences that what we're doing is not happenstance. What we're doing is design. We're looking at development in a sustainable way. And so when you hear me talk about recycling and the recycling program championed by our dear friends from Taiwan, that is part of the effort to deal with trash on the island of Nevis. If we can take the plastics, if we can take the cardboards, if we can take those recyclable materials out of the mix, then you have less garbage going to the landfill. In addition to that, if you can take the cars and the white goods and the metal goods out of the mix, that is why, as you know, Ms. Budgeon, we announced that we had partnered with a company to come in and crush the old abandoned cars and remove them from the island altogether. So the plastics are being baled, crushed and baled and removed, and the old cars are being crushed and baled and removed. In addition to that, we are looking to see what we can do in terms of mining the existing landfill. So rather than focusing attention, which is the old-fashioned way, in my opinion, of dealing with garbage management, waste management, is to, when one landfill is full, you just find another one. Nevis is so small, and if I recall, it's certainly in my lifetime, I believe this is a second landfill. We used to have one somewhere down Indian Castle, I believe. So this one now was second one. So if we were to move again, question is, where would we put yet another landfill? So what we're trying to do is to see how we can manage this landfill more effectively, how we can restrict the material that goes into it in terms of plastics, cars, white goods, refrigerators, stoves, microwaves, and also how we can eventually mine that landfill to take out of it products that are in it that can be utilized or recycled. So those are the efforts that are ongoing in relation to that. So the short answer is we don't have any immediate plans to look for another landfill site. We're trying to manage that site in a better way and a more efficacious way. Rest Haven, we're going to have a whole press conference, I believe, on Rest Haven, because Rest Haven has been a difficult problem for us to deal with. The records will show, Ms. Budgeon, that in 2008, the then government, led by the NRP, acquired Rest Haven. Why? Nobody knows. Because when we got into government in 2013, we found not one shred of paper in relation to the acquisition of Rest Haven. So nobody knows why Rest Haven was acquired by the then government in 2008. By then, in 2008, Rest Haven was already an abandoned property. Rest Haven, for those who may not know, is a property right here. They call that Old Hospital Road, and was a hotel of some significance back in the day. It's owned by the Nisbet family, and for whatever reason, the government decided to go and take the people's property. Now, Rest Haven had been badly damaged in Hurricane Hugo, going back to 1989, and had been shut down since then. The owners would have engaged with the Rams Group and would have taken certain monies from the Rams Group by way of loan to redevelop the property. Those monies were exhausted, but the property was not redeveloped. That led to legal conflict with the Rams Group for the repayment of their money. That was what existed in 2008. The government of the day, in their wisdom, went in and said, we will take the property. And they compulsorily acquired that property. The problem, Ms. Budgeon, is that if you're compulsorily acquiring property, you must have a use for it. And you must pay for it. So they acquired the property in 2008 and never paid 1 red cent to the Nisbet family for that property. When we got back into government in 2013, 5 years later, we found a situation at Rest Haven where the property had been taken from the Nisbet family, no fault of their own, but nothing had ever been paid to them. And at that point was when we said, well, what is the value of this property? A tribunal was constituted, and that tribunal put the value of that property at, if I recall, something in the region of 6.5, 6.6 million US dollars. That's what the tribunal said the property, 2 acres of property, was worth. I will get the precise number for you, Ms. Budgeon. But the tribunal went further and said, hey, you now have to pay interest on that amount from the date of acquisition. So from 2008, when they took the people's property and paid nothing, we now had to pay interest. Well, if you work out 6-point-something million US dollars, that's nearly 20 million EC dollars, plus interest that has been accruing. And we have been fighting that battle ever since. We've been back in government since 2013. That debt has escalated now to well in excess of 30 million EC dollars with interest added. We have negotiated, I could tell you, that we have been paying monthly. In fact, I don't think that it ought to be a secret that we've been paying $150,000 every single month to the Nisbet family to try and get this debt down. The agreement was that we would pay just over $200,000 a month. We have not been able to manage the amount, but we have been paying a minimum of $150 a month for 2 acres of abandoned property here at Old Hospital Road. One of the worst fiscal decisions ever made in the history of this country is the acquisition of West Haven. And to this day, we cannot find one script, one word, one document to tell the people of Nevis why. Why was it acquired? What was the plan for it? Nobody knows. Who was it to benefit? Nobody knows. But what we do know is that all these years later, we have this millstone around our necks. So when I hear sometimes the opposition out there talking about debt and talking about, oh, fiscal propriety, I say, but look at the answers you put the people of Nevis in. You know, when we got in government in 2013, there was litigation between the Nesbitt family, Rams, and the NIA, because the NIA now had jumped in. Where fools fear to tread, we've jumped in. And this litigation ended all the way in the Privy Council in England. The people of Nevis must know that all of this we were forced to deal with. When the Privy Council ruled, who end up now? The NIA end up now having to foot the bill in relation to Rams as well, because Rams held security over the property. And the argument was that when we acquired the property, well, you take the cow, so you take the calf with it. You take the whole problem now is on the backs of the people of Nevis. And to this day, Ms. Budgeon, and the reason I'm passionate about it, because to this day, we have never had an explanation as to why. Millions of dollars. Why? So I've been meeting as Premier with the family. It's not their fault. Nobody sent the government to take their land. Meeting with the family, trying to speak to the family about how we can deal with it. We have come to an understanding with them. I can't say an agreement because there's still some items that we are trying to negotiate. But it is a terrible, terrible situation that the government finds itself in. A bad decision that was taken. And let me tell you, lest there be people out there, because I know they're the apologists, and I know that some are trying to rewrite the history of this island. But let me tell you, Ms. Budgeon, that West Haven was only one of 13 different parcels of land acquired by the NRP government, and they didn't pay 1 penny for any of them. The law is clear. If you're going to take people land, you must pay compensation to them. They took land at Cohoons. They took land up here at the top of Government Road. They took people's land left, right, and center. They never paid a penny for any of the land. When we got into government, now imagine that people are calling us and telling us, we want our money. We want our money. You think that's bad, Ms. Budgeon? When down here at Penny's was acquired, and $10 million was left at Scotiabank by the CCM-led administration when it demitted office in 2006. $10 million. The purpose behind that $10 million was to secure the loan taken from an institution in Trinidad to pay for those lands. Somehow, the NRP administration got their hands on that $10 million, took it out, depleted the account at Scotiabank. And if they had used the money to pay Trinidad, you would have said, well, that's all right. That's their decision. But no. They took out the money from Scotiabank. They sold all the lots up here in Nugents, just above where we are. And guess what? They did not pay Trinidad any money. So the banking institution in Trinidad now says to the people of Nevis and the government, hey, we are not going to release any titles to anybody unless we get not some, but all of the money that is owed to us. And since we got back into government in 2013, we've been paying every month to Trinidad to try and make amends so that people can get their title. You know what's happening now? A lot of people who bought land from the government at Nugents have no title. And they can't get any title because Trinidad say, we're not releasing the parent title for any marking off. This government, my government, you know what we've had to do, Ms. Budgeon? Give back some people their money. One family from Canada came to us and said, hey, we paid money for those lands. We can't get title, so we want back our money. This CCM-led administration has had to refund monies to persons. We talk about good governance. We talk about bad decisions that are made that have lasting impact on the people of Nevis. These are some of the decisions that we're talking about. Nevisians bought land, put down their hard-earned money, cannot get title. And they cannot get title because the $10 million was taken, nobody knows what happened to it, and Trinidad was not paid. So Trinidad now say, unless we get our money, no titles could pass. You all think this thing called government is easy? When I hear people out there carrying on and bashing, and they pretend as if they're Jesus. And we in CCM are the sinners. But these are the things that we have to deal with. Rest Haven and the acquisition of Rest Haven could never have made sense, Ms. Budgeon. Never have made sense to sensible people. And to this day, we don't know why Rest Haven was acquired. But I can tell you that the people of Nevis now have a debt of over $30 million for 2 acres of abandoned property. And you think I must stand up and take blame for the foolish decisions that others take? I can only tell you the way it is. Government is continuous, and so as government is continuous, you must deal with the problem. But because I have to deal with the problem, don't mean that I should stand here and say that the problem was caused by me, because it was not. This is the recklessness, the foolishness that was engaged in, that resulted in us having these problems. So I'm happy you raised it, so I had a chance to talk about it. Let me move on. The Destiny Project, let me just report that the federal government would have written to us on the 30th of April, Ms. Budgeon, and would have indicated that the committee set up in St. Kitts had various concerns. In our opinion, the majority of those concerns had nothing to do with St. Kitts or the committee, because those concerns fell squarely within the constitutional authority of the Nevis Island Administration. And some of those concerns we thought were, how should I put it, unfortunate. And I use that word because one of the concerns, for example, they said that this community will be, and I'm paraphrasing, a community of wealthy individuals, and that will create a sort of Nevis where you have some haves and have-nots. And I thought, well, that's an interesting observation to make, because I don't know if you all know, but there's a place in St. Kitts called Frigate Bay. There's a place in St. Kitts called Kittitian Hill. There's a place in St. Kitts called Christophe Harbour. I wonder how many Kittitians live in Christophe Harbour. How many Nevisians live at Four Seasons, Ms. Budgeon? Do you know? How many Nevisians live at Four Seasons? Well, how come this have and have not story just coming up now as an objection to Destiny? These are the kinds of things that I say are absolute, unadulterated rubbish. And we had to respond and say, listen, this kind of thing here shouldn't enter no letter sent to us, because one, it has nothing to do with St. Kitts. And two, these are arguments which are clearly contrived. Because you look all around the country, you have neighborhoods that people would look at as saying, well, these are affluent neighborhoods. That's the reality. Frigate Bay perhaps is the best example in St. Kitts. So using that as a saying you have a concern about that, really to my mind, is not saying much at all. So we've responded, and our response went out on the 8th of May to the Cabinet in St. Kitts. I can tell you that today we intend to dispatch a further letter, because we've heard nothing further, asking whether or not we can have a response within the next 7 days. The reason I say that is because we would have sent this document with our position to the federal government on the 23rd of December. The Prime Minister has said that he doesn't recognize that he got it until sometime in January. But that aside for the moment, if we count from the 23rd of December, January, February, March, April, May, it's been 5 months since this project has been over there in St. Kitts. We got that project proposal in August, if I recall, in Nevis. And August, September, October, November, December, within 4 months, we had had a number of town hall meetings, number of public consultations, and advanced the position. It's been 5 months now that that project is sitting down in St. Kitts. And we still don't have an answer. So we are now going to say to St. Kitts, please, can we have an answer within the next week so that we can know what we're doing, because this has commercial implications, and certainly this impacts the economy of the island of Nevis and the wider federation. Subsidy on electricity, all I can tell is that we continue to monitor the situation carefully. Ms. Budgeon, I am not jumping to any position, because just this morning I had listening to the news that oil prices have started to trend downwards, on the news that Iran and the US may be able to come to some kind of agreement and ceasefire, and how the Strait of Hormuz is going to operate. If the strait can be reopened in a short order, then we may have prices stabilizing at a point where, as government, we don't have to do anything. But we are monitoring the situation. Any further questions for me, please?
Good morning, Elke Hewlett, Department of Information. I will keep my questions brief since Ms. Budgeon had asked all that I had to ask. How would you summarize the achievements of your CCM administration since being re-elected to office in December 2022? So in short, what has CCM done for the people and island of Nevis? Secondly, if the federal government continues to drag the Destiny matter out and the investors pull out, how would this impact the NIA federal government relationship going forward? Thank you.
Ms. Hewlett, I'll get to the accomplishments in a while. Let me just say that, as everybody's aware, we have sought, and I have sought as Premier, to develop a working relationship with the federal government, and particularly with Prime Minister Drew. And I believe project. I do not believe that we could have achieved what we've achieved thus far and be within striking distance without the partnership of Prime Minister Drew and his government. I have said that there have been occasions that Prime Minister Drew has made funds available. And our airport project, certainly on the acquisition of the lands, we have been able to leverage some of that assistance to acquire those lands. We still have an outstanding matter of a loan from Taiwan at very attractive terms for which we need a federal guarantee, but we are working through on that. So in the main, I think that the relationship has been a good relationship. Having said that, I think that this particular issue is creating some difficulty for us because of what I consider a lack of response. You know, when I see that the length of time that it has taken for a committee to be put in place and then for the committee to come with some observations, which in my opinion have absolutely nothing to do with St. Kitts or with the federal construct. The Constitution is clear as to what Nevis has authority over and what St. Kitts has authority over. In my opinion, what the committee or the Attorney General or whoever in St. Kitts should concern themselves with is whether or not this project is constitutional. Does it breach any provision of the Constitution? And we have in Nevis been at painstakingly, we've made every effort to say to the developers of Destiny, whatever you do has to be within the constitutional parameters of St. Kitts and Nevis. The Nevis Island administration will not countenance anything that is outside the Constitution. We will not countenance anything that gives any semblance to the notion that you have some independent enclave. It has to be subject to our law and our Constitution, and that has been made clear. So to my mind, we are at a stage where all that I think the federal government has to do is to look at its responsibilities. Its responsibilities, constitutional propriety, and the areas that fall to federal responsibility, national security, international representation, although that really doesn't arise. All this other thing about Nevis, or Nevis is not going to be as quiet as it used to be, and all of those observations are as chaff that the wind bloweth away. I don't see any committee should come back with those kinds of observations because, again, they have simply no jurisdiction to speak to those matters. Those are matters for the Nevis Island administration. And so you asked a very important question. I think it is for history to determine that, whether this will damage the relationship. I'm hopeful that it won't, because I'm still hopeful that the federal government will come back with a response within the time frame so that we can move forward with this project. This project is the biggest single investment that we would have seen in the history of the country. And I'll go further, Ms. Hewlett, and tell you that I have some anecdotal information that 2 other Caribbean countries are in the process of approving similar zones in their country. 2 other countries. And if that happens, 1 country in the north and 1 in the south of the Caribbean. If that happens, then it means that we are no longer novel. We're just another one. And you lose first mover status and benefit. So I'll be monitoring that, and as soon as I get confirmation that I can say something publicly on that, I will be saying something publicly on it. Because we've been sitting on this now. If we go back, I think the legislation was passed in July, something like that last year, middle of last year. If we go back to that period of time, come forward, we're nearly a year that we're sitting down on this development, this project. This is about Nevis and about Nevis's development. When I go out in the community, young people asking me, when is this project going to start? We want work. We have things to do. And we keep delaying and delaying and delaying. My thing is, we need to take some decisions and move forward. So I'm hopeful that it doesn't damage the relationship, Ms. Hewlett, but it is a difficulty that we have to deal with. Now, you asked about some accomplishments. I believe that this government has accomplished quite a lot in the period of time that we've been here. I set out just today some of the initiatives in terms of what I call people, whether it's in sport, in gender, family services, social services, how we help people, RISE program. I'm very proud of all of those efforts because I think cumulatively they build a better Nevis, a stronger Nevis. I can look at the way that crime has been reduced so dramatically. I said it at the awards for the constables, and I was told by the commissioner, don't say it too loud because I don't want to jinx the thing. But I think it's a matter of some pride for all of us, not just the police, but for the government and for the citizenry, that we are now in the month of May and we've had no violent incidents in Nevis for the year thus far. We are very grateful for that, and we are prayerful that that continues. I think that's significant. People feel safer. You go out at nights, people are not as worried as we were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. We look at the opening of the water taxi facility, which has revolutionized travel between St. Kitts and Nevis. And a facility which, in the time that it has been open, has now had well over 1 million travelers going back and forth on an annual basis. We have the opening of the MGR Park. The MGR Park now, could you imagine, Ms. Hewlett, that sometimes the government wants the use of the MGR Park and we can't get it? That's how popular it is as a venue. So the government belongs to the government, but the government can't book it because people have booked it. So we have that. We have, in my opinion, something that does not go herald, doesn't get much in terms of press and coverage, is not heralded, but something that I think is a matter of tremendous worth and investment in people, is that since 2020 or thereabouts, we have assisted over 200 students to go off and study, get some kind of assistance, whether they're public servants who get study leave with pay, or they are people who simply want to go and study, and we have been prepared to extend a helping hand to them. That's significant. This has nothing to do with the scholarships that come from Taiwan and other places. This is the NIA spending. And what we have done recently, we've extended that to people who are studying online. Because before, those who studied online didn't get any assistance. We've extended that to them. So the idea really is to help people. And we're not giving full scholarships. We're not paying the full way, but we're providing assistance. And we benefited over 200 people. I spoke of the medical program. We have since 2020, I'm advised, spent $2.7 million on assisting persons who are indigent, who need critical care and cannot afford to get critical care. The number I've been given is $2,797,165.03. So we have spent money on that. I could go on, but I would stop with what I think is one of the biggest accomplishments of this government, and I would use 3 words: water, water, water. Just this morning, I read a plaintive cry on social media where a young woman said that for the past 2 weeks, she's in the St. Peter's area in St. Kitts, and she cannot get any water. She leave home in the morning, no water. She come home at night, no water. She says she's tired of bathing in a bucket. I believe it is some matter of pride in Nevis that people don't need to have buckets anymore, because we have solved the water problem in Nevis at the moment. I say at the moment because we never know what could happen. But it is evidence of the investment that this government has made. And all of you members of the media know the amount of cost I get for it. You all heard the attacks on this administration, that we waste money and we're bad spenders, but we invested in necessary infrastructure. I mentioned just today that a 500,000 gallon tank is being erected at Stony Hill. If you drive up there, it's the second one that's being erected there. They're side by side. When that tank is done, I'm told we'll have storage for somewhere close to 4 million gallons of water. No, forgive me, 2 million gallons of water in Nevis. Established storage in modern tanks. We've invested in the water infrastructure, distribution, storage, and now more water. Commission a desalination plant. Every community in Nevis, every community in Nevis has potable water 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If there's a problem, the good people at the water department will send a message and say, we're having an issue, and so please bear with us. We'll have your water back shortly. No community in Nevis, none, Ms. Hewlett, is experiencing those water challenges. And whilst I mentioned St. Kitts, our sister, because I saw this thing just this morning about St. Peter's, I can tell you that I speak to friends and family in Antigua, in the Virgin Islands. People talk about, I think, APUA, they call them in Antigua. Thanks be to God. I think that that is one of the most significant accomplishments, because all of us know the inconvenience of turning on that tap and there's no water. And we set about to solve that problem, and I am grateful to God that we had a government that ignored the noise, invested in infrastructure like water, to ensure that even now, as we're going through a rough patch in terms of rainfall, water still busting pipe in Nevis. And everybody has access to potable water on this island. That, in a small island ecosystem, cannot be overstated in terms of the importance of that investment in water. Ms. Hewlett, I would want you to know that based on the numbers that I've seen from the Honorable Spencer Brand, who has led this revolution in water in Nevis, that this NIA has spent over $50 million in water development on this island to ensure that we all sitting in this room don't have to catch water in bucket and don't have to bathe in bucket. That we have what we need for our daily lives. And water is life. And that is why we would have made that investment. So, Ms. Hewlett, I can go on and on about accomplishments. I can talk about the roads. I can talk about the Newcastle Police Station. I can talk about housing. In fact, I'm told that in the last 5 years, we have built 130 homes in the last 5 years. 130 divided by 5. Give me a quick response. 25, 26 homes a year that we've been able to do. But I don't want people to just see it as a home, you know. I want you to see it as a family, as an investment in people. When we built, I think it was 6 or 8 homes in Rice's, when the Honorable Eric Evelyn said to me that 6 of those homes are owned by single mothers. The pride that people get when they own their own, they put their own key in the door, that cannot be measured. And so when we talk about homes, we're not just talking about shelter, which is important. We're also talking about what it means for people, what it means to give people that hand up, as we've been talking about. And when I hear a single mother could own their own home, met a young lady at an establishment the other night. She said she works 2 jobs. I said, why? She said, because she's 22, I think, or 23, and she already owns her own home. And she wants to pay off for it by a certain period. So she's working 2 jobs in order to pay off for her home. I said, what, at 23, you have your own home? Young woman. That's what we've been able to do on this island called Nevis. That's the revolution that we're talking about. That's the investment in people. So when we say people matter most, all of our actions, from the elevation of our young people, to our home construction, to our infrastructure construction, to our economic expansion, to our movie industry, which is Pangirl and all of those being filmed here, all of those represent an investment in our people. So as I said, I can go on, Ms. Hewlett, but I think I've said enough in terms of what we've been able to do. I did say I would end with water, water, water. I went on to talk about homes, but let me just add this last one. I think a measure that, again, did not get much coverage was when we introduced a pension for our non-established workers. Our non-established workers in Nevis would work for 40 years and go home, as we say colloquially, with their 2 long hands. Thank you. And they were gone. No security. This government that I lead introduced a gratuity and pension so that when people work now, we're not telling them, oh, but you're never appointed, you're not a civil servant, so you can't get anything. People are going home with something, and they're getting a little something every month. It has come at a significant cost to us, but we thought it was the right thing to do. And so that, again, has brought some comfort to people in their older years, in their golden years. In fact, I smiled the other day because somebody came to talk to me, and their argument was they didn't get enough. And I said, I prefer that argument to an argument that you didn't get anything at all. And it used to be they got nothing. No, the gentleman said he did not get enough. And I said, well, that's a better argument than getting nothing at all, because people used to leave with nothing. This government changed that, Ms. Hewlett. I'm very proud of that. Any more questions for me?
Good afternoon, Premier.
Good afternoon.
Glenn Bart from Television Caribbean, TVC Channel 40. I just want first to start with a follow-up on the Destiny matter. Now, if it is that the committee established by the Prime Minister did not, cannot, or would not deal with the Destiny development application, if you want to call it that, according to the Constitution of St. Kitts and Nevis, do you believe that the Prime Minister should disband this committee and have Cabinet make its decision in a very quick and timely manner going forward? Next question relates to tourism on Nevis. And I believe every administration, every government would have had issues with the previous tourism period and would need to address those issues going into the next tourism period. Are there any such problems that you see on Nevis that needs to be urgently addressed as you prepare to enter the next tourism season? And the other part to that question is related also to tourism. Is in your perspective, having seen what is happening globally, the challenges that are affecting supply lines and a whole bunch of other issues, travel, air travel, and a whole range of other things. How do you see these things impacting tourism on Nevis specifically, but more importantly also the Eastern Caribbean section of tourism in the Caribbean? Because I know Jamaica will have its own advantages and Barbados has its own advantages and so forth. But for the OECS particular area, how do you see these challenges impacting Nevis and the OECS section in general? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bard, for your questions. On the Destiny matter, I don't want it to be said that the committee did not, you said the committee did not deal with the application. I'm saying what I wanted, and I hope I was clear, is that some of the observations of the committee had nothing to do with St. Kitts. No committee set up on St. Kitts can seek to dictate how Nevis develops Nevis. That's a constitutional responsibility of the NIA. The committee, in my opinion, therefore, should have limited itself to the matters that properly pertain to the federal government. And they strayed beyond those matters. Now, you say, I do not get the sense that the committee is dealing with the application. What I mean by that is, it is not for the committee to make a decision. The committee is really set up to advise the Prime Minister and the Cabinet. So ultimately, it is still for the Prime Minister and the Cabinet to make a decision. Because as you know, Mr. Bard, I can get your advice. I don't need to take it. I can get your advice, but I can modify it. But at the end of the day, it is not for the committee to make a decision, because the law doesn't give them any such authority. It is for the committee to advise the Prime Minister and the Cabinet. And so ultimately, it is for the Prime Minister and the Cabinet to take a decision. As I said, we would have responded to the concerns that they said the committee raised on the 8th of May. Today is the 26th of May. So clearly, that's what, 2 weeks would have gone by, 2.5 weeks, since we would have responded to those concerns. So as I said, we'll write today to ask the Honorable Prime Minister and the Cabinet to give us a decision. We're suggesting 7 days. We think after 5 months, the federal government should know, the federal cabinet should know what they want to say in relation to this. Disbanding the committee, that's a matter for the PM. There may be other zones that are being proposed, I don't know. And if they're being proposed in St. Kitts, he may want to keep the committee to advise on those as well, but that's ultimately his decision. You asked questions about tourism on Nevis. You say, what are some of the challenges? I think we have perennial challenges in Nevis in terms of seasonality. I'm sure you've heard that everywhere. Our tourism season tends to go through peaks and troughs. So during the winter months in the US, which is our main source market, Europe, you have large numbers of guests. And then that peters off significantly into the summer. That is why you have things like Music Festival and Culturama, Mango Festival. They're all designed to drive traffic. I think that one of the things we need to start to pay close attention to is developing our regional market. What we have found is that regionally, people travel for a variety of other reasons. So clearly, you're not leaving Barbados to come to Nevis for sun, sea, and sand and warm weather. You have that in Barbados. But you will come because there's music festival in St. Kitts. You'll come because we have the cross-channel swim. You'll come because we have a sporting event like we had the drag racing and the Masters cricket. You'll come because we have the Mango Fest or we have Culturama. So we're now trying to see how we can do more of that in terms of getting people to come from our neighboring islands. And things like the Mango Festival, which is intended to be a food festival, how you get foodies from around the region, around the world to come for that. So you have to pitch it at a particular level so that people are interested enough to travel and to build a holiday around that food festival. So I think that's going to be important. Airlift is also a concern. That is one of the reasons why we're so keen to get the airport construction in Nevis on the way. Incidentally, the team is saying that we should have a groundbreaking ceremony next month in June so that we can proceed with that. We do not yet have the federal guarantee that we need to secure the Taiwanese funding for the land side. But since we have the airport side, money is already secured, we will proceed with that phase immediately and then try to work with the federal government on getting the other phase approved so that we can move forward on that. But at the end of the day, as somebody put it to me, Mr. Bart, airplanes don't need a road to land on, they need a runway to land on. So the most critical part of that development is the runway. So since we have the money for the runway, let's proceed with the runway. That's the approach that we're taking. That Van Sammer International expansion, I think, will augment what happens at RLB. Will give us additional airlift, we hope. Additional routes, we hope. We see, for example, American Airlines flying from Miami to Anguilla and flying from Miami to Dominica and to Tortola. The aircraft they're using is what we're using as a design basis for the Van Sammer expansion. So we are hopeful using that Embraer model that we can get them to ultimately come here as well. So it means then that you could have flights direct from the US mainland to Nevis and to St. Kitts. Smaller flights, yes, but to Nevis and to St. Kitts, which increases the capacity and the ability for airlift. Globally, you're absolutely correct. The challenges that we're seeing in terms of war, rumors of war, conflicts around the world, particularly what we're seeing now with the closure of the Strait of Hormuz and the impact that it's having, impact in terms of oil prices, just in terms of supply chains, as you've mentioned, all being impacted. I don't think many people recognize that when we're talking about global conflict, we have the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Russia is a major producer of oil. Ukraine is a major producer of wheat and agricultural products. You have now war in Iran and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. But also because Iran has expanded the war to its neighbors. You have, of course, oil-producing nations, fertilizer-producing nations around in Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Oman, Qatar. All of these countries are now also being impacted. If you impact the supply of fertilizers, you impact farmers around the world. You impact farmers, you impact the ability to produce food. That can lead to food shortages. So come back again, Mr. Bass, when I think people see it as simple as a plant something. If each of us took that upon ourselves, we can this issue of food security. Then you have the price of oil. As we know, the cost of energy determines where you go in terms of your economy. And it's the biggest factor in terms of your cost of living. Not just the cost of electricity, but the cost of shipping. So since our goods and materials are coming in from Miami or wherever they're coming from, the shipping costs go up. When shipping costs go up, Mr. Bart, when they work it out at the port, you know what they do? They add what? Cost, insurance, and freight. When that freight cost goes up, it means that you and I pay more in terms of our duty, our VAT. So we understand the compounding effect. Now, the specific question you asked of the OECS and tourism, and I think that the answer that I would give is that it has the potential to be very damaging to us because we are already in a region that is very expensive in terms of our tourism product. And if we were to add to that increase in cost of fuel, airlines are going to pass on that increase to passengers. Last time I checked, I tried to get a ticket from St. Kitts to Miami. It was somewhere in the region of $1,200 US for an economy class ticket from St. Kitts to Miami. That used to be what you would pay for business class. You're now paying that for economy class. If that continues to escalate, it gets more expensive. And then in addition, the guest who's coming and say, well, a hotel in St. Kitts Nevis is going to cost me $600-700 a night. I'm a family of 4. The cost of the ticket plus the accommodation, let me go someplace that is much cheaper. Let me go to Bali. Let me go to one of those places where I may well pay the same for the ticket to fly, but the cost of the accommodation is much cheaper. I think, therefore, that we have to be aware, we have to monitor very carefully. I'm not so sure what we can do because our room in terms of maneuverability on these matters is quite limited. But I think at the very least we should be aware of what is happening, and that's why I answered the question I answered the way I did earlier in terms of what is government doing to deal with oil prices, is that we are monitoring it, because as you know, it goes up and it comes down. So I think we need to monitor that situation carefully, but I too am concerned about the negative impact it could have on the OECS, tourism and travel market if these powers that be don't come to an agreement in relation to ending this war in Iran and opening the Strait of Hormuz very soon. I think the lasting lesson that it sends to us as Caribbean people is that we may well feel that we are far removed from these theaters of conflict, but the consequences of conflict globally have an impact on us as well. So notwithstanding that you and I are here, and Nevis is beautiful today, and we're enjoying a beautiful, quiet, peaceful day in a beautiful, quiet, peaceful place, that wars and rumors of wars in other far-flung places nevertheless have an impact on us. And that is why as government and as a people we must do everything we can, Mr. Bart, to wean ourselves off the dependence on outside influences. So whether it's energy, whether it's food, the things that we can control, we should try to do more to control those things so that we are not as susceptible to the outside impacts over which we have no control whatsoever. Anything further for me?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Vernon George, the Observer. Mr. Premier, has the government sent anyone to train for the operation of the geothermal plant? What is the government plan for the windmill farm over Butlers?
The wind farm, you said?
Yeah, the wind farm.
Okay.
There is some clearing down pennies that is making its way around social media. Can you tell us what is to be erected down there? For the past 3 months, there has been construction below the hospital. Are you ready to give an update on this project, seeing the fact that I passed it last week Friday and they are preparing to do roofing right now, and yet still the nation has absolutely no idea what's happening there or what's really going on? Can you give us an update on top of that, please? Is the government planning to build back the security hut for the port security down at Penny's, or erect a building for the lifeguards down there? You mentioned earlier about, and you keep something that you always do, about food security. Can you tell us what is the NIA plan to get local farmers into the Sabre, St. Bart, Anguilla market? Because listening to your statement last week, Wednesday, on the mark, how I interpret the statement, if I was a young farmer coming up, that would have put a daunt in my spirit. So can you tell us what...
What was the statement that would have daunted your spirit? I mean, not everybody listens, so you need to enlighten us.
Okay, your statement to do with get the farmers getting their own market, or going and seek the market and so on. And then because when you look at the problem that the farmers are facing with monkeys and them kind of things there, if I have to leave my farm to go to St. Bart for 2 days to try and market myself out there, and I have nobody working on the farm, that's a feast for the monkeys and them out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's...
Okay. All right. Anything further?
No, that's a bit.
Okay, Mr. George, thank you very much for your questions. You asked, have we sent anyone for training yet for the geothermal plant? The answer is no, because we are not yet at a stage where we, I think, can look at that. We're doing the process in two phases, of course. The first phase is the drilling phase. We're going to have persons naturally employed there, and that's our focus. I think once we now issue the RFP on the plant phase, that's the time now when we could think about whether we attach persons perhaps from Nevlik to plants. We may be able even to send people to Dominica, which is close by where they've already started, to observe and to learn how we manage that. So we plan to, we're just not yet at that stage of the development, and we hope that we will get there rather soon in terms of what we're seeking to do. You asked about the wind farm at Butlers. You asked what is the government plan. I'm not sure if you're aware, Mr. George, but that's not government's wind farm. The wind farm at Butlers is a private sector business. What the only involvement the government had is that we had agreed to buy power from them. But the last time I checked on that, I was told that the equipment is obsolete. It doesn't appear that the owners are any longer around. We don't know where they are. And if you drive over there, you'll realize that most of the windmills are actually on the ground now. So I can't say the government has a plan, because it was never the government's facility. It was always a private facility. You said there's clearing of land down at Pinnies that's on social media. Mr. George, I would urge you as a member of the responsible press, that's what I would call it, that we try to look at social media for sometimes what it is. And I will confess that one of my pet peeves is that you have some fellows running around Nevis who are trying to create hype and confusion, when all of that could be avoided by simply sometimes picking up the phone and asking a question. So somebody sees some land being cleared at Pinnies. They don't ask any questions of anyone. They go and they put a big something on social media, and then all of a sudden it becomes a matter for hype and confusion in the country. What's being built at Pinnies is a secret. Mr. George, it may surprise members of the public to know that private people have a right to clear their land. It's not government land, you know. It is private land. So if a private man decides he wants to clear some portion of his private land for whatever reason, how does that become a question for me as the Premier of Nevis? So these people are clearing their land. I am advised, since you asked me the question, that they're clearing the land because they have investors who are coming and they could not see the land properly because of how overgrown it is. So they want to clear portions so people could have a better vantage point, so to speak, of the land. And that there's some issues with water, apparently the way the water runoff is handled on the land. They wanted to clear the land so they could see how the guts and thing run through the land. That is my understanding. The Department of Physical Planning, I am told, is engaged with the owners of the property. And as far as I understand, Mr. George, nothing is being built. People have just cleared the land for the purposes that I have said. So again, I don't understand what the alarm and what the sound and fury was all about. I have some land in the Prospect area. I cleared it the other day. You mean somebody could go and take a video and say, what secret am I up to? Because I clear my land? We have to rise above that level of pettiness. There's too much effort on the island to create controversy. And you and I both know, Mr. George, that with a phone and a camera, we can create controversy. We can turn every situation into a controversy. We must really settle down and get serious about what we're doing on Nevis. You recall there was a time when the cry from the opposition was, nothing is happening in Nevis. Now the cry is too much is happening. So if we see a piece of land clear, Must be some development coming and Brantley ain't said nothing about it. Brantley is hiding it. And the level of misinformation that is peddled on a daily basis. And for what? Somebody sent me something the other day saying how some, again, activists for the opposition, that the Four Seasons has been sold and the Four Seasons is going to be closed and the Premier is not being honest with people. That reminds me of a story about the Ivor Walters Primary School being closed due to an infestation of cockroaches. And the biggest cockroach that I've ever seen was put on the internet to say this is a kind of cockroach. They call it a German cockroach. They're not even going to Antigua and find a roach, you know. German cockroach they put up. Big cockroach, look like a monster. I get frightened and all when I see the cockroach. I say, my God. I call the principal. The principal said, Mr. Brantley, what are you asking me? He said, school is in session. The children just had their lunch. I said, well, my goodness. Can't believe. Could you imagine some reporter had come now and asked me about the cockroach infestation and the closure of Ivor Walters School? That's why I say sometimes just pick up your phone. Make a quick call, you realize that all these stories are bogus. Four Seasons has been sold and Four Seasons is going to be closed. Bogus. Intended to create alarm in the community. Why? Why? Any opposition that's based on lies, ultimately it will be exposed. So what happens now when the year comes to an end and Four Seasons hasn't closed for 3 months, as I'm told the talk is? What happens? Do those people have anything called credibility? Because credibility is an important part of public life. So, the clearing of the land, private people, once they go and talk to planning, have a right to clear the land. There's no development that is happening on the land. If there is a development, I would be more than proud to come and tell you and tell the press, boy, a big hotel, a big resort, a big development is coming. When you think about it, Mr. George, it sounds so foolish that a government having sight of development is going to keep it a secret. Why should keep it a secret? I would want people to know that the government has been able to attract a significant investor. There's no secret about that. But this idea that piece of land being cleared and so the government is holding some secret, I just find it preposterous. And so I think, Mr. George, my suggestion, as a member of the responsible press, I think you hear them things and you just ignore the noise. And let's move on. Because even those who put up the video could have make a quick call and say, well, I see some land clearing here. What is this about? No need for alarm and hysteria. And you have people, especially our divisions overseas, who are supportive of the opposition. They get worked up. Something untoward is happening. Well, since when clearing land is untoward? You drive through Nevis on a weekly basis, you see all kind of land being cleared. And I'm so happy when I see it. I see land being cleared, I say, action. Action. Because guess what? The backhoe man get a job. The excavator man get a job. And when I see it being cleared, I say, well, maybe something is going to happen. But those, Mr. George, are private lands being cleared by the private landowner for his private business purposes. Has nothing to do with government. The construction below the hospital, I'm asking you to be patient with me. I will make a full statement. Again, it is because there is an outstanding funding issue that we're trying to resolve before we come and we make a fulsome statement. So, again, the building is proceeding, but we would want to be in a position, and I think that should come very shortly. I'd hoped I should be able to do so this week, but certainly it will come very soon, and we'll issue that statement to the members of the press, so everybody will have it, Mr. George. You ask, are we building back a security hut at Pinny's? Again, Mr. George, you may not be aware, but we're done with the days of security hut at Pinny's, where the security hut used to be, which is now the Nevis Coffee Company. When we did the reimagination and reconstruction at Pinny's, we provided quarters for the security at the back with CCTV and all of those. So there's a full-fledged security office now, modern security office with the necessary camera equipment and monitors and all of that. So the old days with the little hut, those days are gone. So there's no need to rebuild that because we've moved beyond that now. We have a modern security facility, which I believe is at the back of the The restaurants, I think, as you move across there by, as you make the turn, if you come down by Nevis Peak Brewery, you make that left turn. You go across there, that's where the security setup is. And as I said, it's modern monitors, and they can sit there and monitor the situation. And of course, we have security out doing their patrols as well. Food security, you said the NIA plan to get local farmers into the market. What I am doing at this point is really reporting what I have seen and the opportunity that I think exists. Certainly the Ministry of Agriculture and the Department of Agriculture will have to undertake, Mr. George, some of the things that you are correctly pointing out to get our farmers together and to see which farmers have the entrepreneurial zeal and spirit to get involved to supply some of these markets that appear to be available. You say, however, that my comments were a little disheartening for you, and I apologize for that, but I think maybe my comments that I mentioned on radio on Wednesday were not taken in their proper context. And just so that people are clear, I heard the minister in St. Kitts being criticized for not finding markets for farmers in St. Kitts. I think it was pineapple. And I made the observation that the entire responsibility cannot be the responsibility of the government, Mr. George. If you're farming, yes, food is important, and yes, food security is important, but you're also running a business. You're not doing it for free. You're not operating as the Red Cross. And when you come with your produce, you're selling your produce. So it's almost the same to me as a man. You tell a man, okay, he's cooking barbecue chicken, and somebody else is responsible for selling his chicken for him. I am saying the government has its role to play. But farmers cannot just sit back and say, well, it's the government to find me a market. Everybody must take some responsibility, and nobody, Mr. George, is responsible for your success. You are responsible for your success. Now, if you need seeds, if you need plowing, if you need seedlings, if you need a duty-free, if you need whatever, those are the things the government should be doing. If you need the government to ensure that the policies are in place, that you can market your goods to Marriott and to Four Seasons and to the various hotels, absolutely. But what you're going to tell me, the government must send a pickup to your farm to pick up your pineapples to then carry them to Marriott to sell them for you? But what's your role? Because you're running a business. It's not a government cooperative. And that's the thing sometimes maybe I talk too plainly, because there's some who, either in government or want to be in government, who tell people that everything for them should be done by the government. I'm saying no. What you need is a partnership. You need farmers who are willing to say, hey, let us get together, we have our association, we have whatever, let us approach Four Seasons and Marriott and let us tell them we can supply them with watermelon 9 months out of the year, so they have no need to import. So the idea that it's government's sole responsibility and that the farmers have no responsibility is what I was speaking to. So again, I didn't mean to sound in a way that would dishearten you, but I just feel that the point that I'm trying to make is a point that I make here all the time, that we need greater responsibility. We need to take some personal responsibility sometimes. One of the things that I dislike intensely is every time a business closes down, they blame the government. They don't blame poor customer service. They don't blame that maybe you're selling something that people don't want. You know, Mr. George, if your barbecue chicken don't taste good, people are not going to buy it. If the price is too high, people are not going to buy it. If when people come to buy it, as we say colloquially, you hug them off, people are going to say, man, you're not going to manners, they're not going to come back by you. Then your business shut down now, you say the government. The government is failing small businesses. Well, at what point do you as a business person take responsibility? And so that's all I meant by that. As I said, no intent to create any unease, but I do think that what we need is a partnership between the farming community and the government, and each side helping the other to enhance food security in the country. Anything further for me?
Ms. Budgeon wants
Yes, Ms. Budgeon.
on radio. Mr. Premier, I know that you mentioned this morning, and you also mentioned from your previous press conference that the first phase for the airport runway, the government has the money for that, correct?
Yes, we have confirmed financing on that aspect of things.
You also made mention that the federal government was a bit concerned about the GDP for the second phase. Now, is there an update on the second phase itself? When do you expect a response other than this matter being prolonged more? So thus far, Mr. Premier, we are waiting for a definite response on the Destiny project and also for the second phase of the Eastwood project. Thank you.
I don't know what to say except that I agree with you. I'm waiting for a response too. In terms of an update, I don't have one as I speak to you. It's a matter that we continue to raise with the federal government because, as I think the public is aware, the responsibility for repayment of that debt will be the responsibility of Nevis. The federal government is only involved because Nevis does not have the constitutional authority, sovereignty, to sign off on certain things. So to the extent that an international government, in this case Taiwan, is going to be lending money to the NIA, they require the federal government's signature. Not to impose a liability on the federal government, because they're not going to pay a penny, but certainly because of the constitutional construct. If Nevis were an independent island, obviously that would not be the case, but we are not. We are part and parcel of the federation and the seat of sovereignty, the seat of government. What pressure you want me to put on this budget? You want me to lock up somebody or put somebody in a headlock? What pressure exactly you want me to put on? I can negotiate, I can make the case. I think that the Van Sam International Airport will add immeasurably to the GDP growth of the country. And so whilst I could understand the concern about debt to GDP is only a concern where your GDP is stagnant. If your GDP is growing, then it takes care of that percentage. And I think that our GDP, both through Destiny and through this airport and through geothermal, is going to expand beyond anything that we could have imagined. So I do feel that there's a need to revisit that, but there is no pressure that I can apply, save to respectfully ask the federal government to do what is good for the country, not just St. Kitts, but for the Federation as a whole. The Federation does include the island of Nevis. Sometimes I think we forget that. Anything further for me? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. I certainly appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Thank you. Next month, sorry, not next week, next month. Thank you.